What's up, guys? Welcome to another video on the channel, and I had to record this again because my audio was doubled. I'm so annoyed. But as you can see, I made a new tier list for the current state of Summoners World Rush with new icons. On the one point this way, it's actually this way, it's inverted. Don't worry about it. But with icons, because people were telling me, "Oh, why are you using those icons?" I don't understand. And I understand, like, a lot of people coming into Rush probably never played Sky Arena, but yeah, I came with Sky Arena and all these monsters in Sky Arena. Anyways, we'll get into the video. If you guys like the video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more Summoners World Rush videos or just any content in general, because I'm kind of expanding from Summoner World Rush, doing more games as well. But other than that, I will get into the tier list and let's go. All right, so as you can see, I had the tier list from the best, really good, Dragon's Nest, Arena, Skyland Defense, Farming, and Nah. Pretty self-explanatory for most of them. For people that don't know, how I do my tier list is I try to make it as more clear as possible. I don't do it as like SSSS, that type of stuff, because of the fact that there are a lot of options to use the game, and every account is different, and what helps certain players differ from account to account. So for some people, Lucian may not be the best option, but for some others, Lucian will be a good option. But there are obviously some really, really good ones, and like really and exceptionally good, and there are obviously some ones that you should not even worry about or just ignore. And I try to do it so that you can understand what's good in what area of the game. So I try to make it as diverse as possible, so that way you can diversify your roster and try to see if you can implement some monsters here and there to help you create certain content according to what you're doing. So yeah, get into it. We have the best, which is obviously clear, the best of the game. Don't worry, like, you use them in pretty much most content you can. That is Light Monkey, Artemil, LAIMA, Cassandra, Sabrina, Melissa, and Grogan. I'll go one by one. Light Monkey, just an overall the best defense breaker to use in boss staging. You can also use him in Skyland defense, but pretty much everybody uses him in boss staging because of the fact that he has a level 5 defense break, which is the highest defense break in the game, and he's just a mainstay and a definitely monster you gotta have your boss in your team. He cannot leave. He has to be there no matter what you are doing. Artemil, the best melee DPS in the game. Just really, really good for just pooping out damage, and for boss staging, that is primarily what you want. You want somebody that can just crap out damage, so that way you can kill these bosses as fast as possible, because you only have 30 seconds. LAIMA is the best damage dealer in the game currently. I'll be recording this. She is far better than Sabrina, which I made plenty of videos about already. But yeah, she is literally the best damage dealer in the game, bar none. LAIMA is currently in better as me recording this. So if you have LAIMA, make sure you don't have as many copies of LAIMA. I do suggest pushing for a lot of LAIMA copies because of the fact that she is really, really good. Cassandra, the only crit rate AoE crit rate buffer in the game. She's a mainstay in all your teams, and she never leaves no matter what. No matter what you're doing in the game, Skyland defense, arena, whatever, she stays because of the fact that she's the only person that busts crit rate, and crit skills are insanely strong in this game. Sabrina, the second best damage dealer in the game now. Really, really good. Again, mainstay in pretty much everything you do in the game. Doesn't matter what you're doing, she stays, and she is always there. Melissa, really, really good damage dealer, mainly there for buffing your crit rate, mainly there for buffing your range monsters, but she's really, really good. Once you get a copy of Melissa, you ideally do want to have her in your team because of the fact that she just increases your damage output for boss staging and pretty much just everything in the game. Grogan, the third best damage dealer in the game. He's probably up there with Artemil, but mainly there because of petrification. Petrification is really nice because it's basically just another freeze that lowers evasion, and just allows you to land more debuffs. So that's why you want to have Grogan in your team, because Grogan is just really, really strong and definitely somebody you should have in your team once you have copies of him. All right, then we have the really good tier. Really good tier is that they're really good, but sometimes you may replace them or change them around here and there. But you definitely want to have most of these still in your team no matter what. But you still want to change it around, and you should look at them and consider them adding into your boss stage and your Skyland defense. And again, I'll go over them individually. Lucian's solid, really, really good. Very sometimes replaceable depending on the level of your Lucian. But we do have what is it? A Summoning Road, which helps you get more copies of Lucian. So you do have a high copy of Lucian. He's not bad. Also really good in Dragon's Nest because he adds Venom. So you definitely want to level him up primarily for your Dragon's Nest on Venom week, so that way you can do more damage when Venom is the additional damage modifier for that week. Vertihill, same thing as Lucian. He does bleed, so you want to level him up primarily for bleed week and Dragon's Nest to make sure that you are doing as much damage as possible when bleed is a damage modifier. Ariel and Affiliate are just the best tanks in the game. But they're pretty much the only tanks in the game, to be honest with you. But they're really, really good tanks to add to your team. Primarily for boss staging, not too much for Sky Island defense, but mainly for boss staging. So if you're at a level where you're probably getting nuked a little too hard, you may want to add a frontline tank to that to help with your survivability. So that way you can handle the boss stage a little bit easier. I personally use Ariel, but people like Affiliate more. So it's pretty much just a case by case uh thing when it comes to these two. Like I said, I personally use Ariel. I think Ariel's, I call him Timu Goku because he does this, because he does that. It looks like he's doing instant transmission. But overall, like I like Ariel a lot. But again, people like Ophelia, people like they like her more. Again, it's up to you. But if you're struggling on the stage, just use one or the other. They're both really good. Charlotte's pretty much rising in ranks right now because apparently people are saying that she's really good with LAIMA. But the thing with Charlotte is that she is really good, but the problem is you need some copies. If you don't have her 3-star at least to go awaken her, you probably won't see too much good value out of her. But she's definitely really, really good. She's currently on banner if you want to shoot for it. I wouldn't, depending on what kind of player you are. If you're like a whale, you're probably already doing it. If you're not a whale, probably wouldn't do it while LAIMA's still here because LAIMA's just incredible. LAIMA's just a mainstay and has to be like you want to get as high as possible. So definitely look into that. But Charlotte's good if you have her. If you have a 3-star wicket, you may want to consider adding her to see if she, helps out with some of your content in the game. Jiwa, crit skill increases your crit damage. So I think she's really good no matter what. Because y'all lower movement speed also in Skyline defense is really good. And she's just overall good damage dealer. Not one of the best, but she does good damage. So she's really, really good if you want to add her to your team, just because she's a constant crit damage buffer and you want to do as much damage as possible in pretty much every content in the game. Tiserion does burn damage, good for burn weak modification on Dragon's Nest. And also just an overall solid damage dealer. So if you have a good copy, you have a lot of copies of Tiserion, he's really good to add to your team because of the fact that he kind of just fits the bill of just like a damage dealer that you want to hit hard in pretty much most content in the game. But you should level him up once you get him for Dragon's Nest, just because again the burn modification weak helps you do more damage. John is an attack speed buffer. So pretty much is a mainstay in pretty much all your boss staging because of the fact that she does that. Because everybody in your team attack speed and you want to do as much damage as possible. It's also really good in Skyline defense because it's the same reason you want to do as much damage as possible. So buffing your attack speed is just really, really good. And also she's an okay damage dealer. She's an okay little warrior. She just does some good damage here and there. But she's overall really good. I would add her to your team. Rena, the only attack buffer with ranged in your game. So she buffs all your ranged attack monsters. So once you get her, honestly, she shouldn't leave your team once you get her because of the fact that she just offers that utility to all of your ranged damage dealers in the game because there's pretty much like a plethora of them. His range is really, really good right now. So once you get Rena, she pretty much should stay on your team for Skyline defense and also boss staging. So she's really, really good. Definitely should add it to your team once you get a copy of her. Now, when you get to the unique monsters, some of these unique, like you can look into these unique monsters and see if they help you out. Like Alucia. Alucia is a monster no matter what you should level up because she does Frostbite for Dragon's Nest. So whenever it's Frostbite week, you want to make sure that Alucia is in your team so that way you can do as much damage as possible to the dragon during Frostbite week. But also, she does really good damage. So if you're looking for a ranged damage dealer and may not have like a whole bunch of the ranged monsters like leveled up, then you could look into her to add to your team because she still does really good damage and she could be one of the best damage dealers. What am I saying? Best damage dealers on your team if you need her for boss staging. Kali, I say this every single time I talk about Kali. Kali is really, really good, but she needs crit rate. If you do not have crit rate on your Kali, you will not see too much value out of her because you will never see that defense break. So in the beginning, I still say it's a lot better to add Light Monkey once you have a copy of him. But if you don't have a defense breaker in the beginning, you can use Kali until you get Light Monkey. But once you have a Kali invested into and has some passive crit rate, that way that defense break is more consistent, I would not use her at all because of that simple fact. But 1000%, Kali's good. I'm not dissing her. I still use her for boss staging every now and then. But for the most part, like I keep saying, I'll say it over and over again. Needs career rate. If you don't have career rate, you'll never see our defense break. Same with Sirius. Sirius is really, really good because she blinds on her crit skill, which helps you with survivability. But now with LAIMA in the game, her value went down a little bit, but she's still really, really good. Let's say you're coming in after the LAIMA banner. Sirius is good to add in, and I still think Sirius and LAIMA are good to pair together because of the fact that until you awaken LAIMA, you can have Sirius blind the boss, and it pretty much like increases LAIMA's damage because LAIMA does more damage if the boss is blinded. So on her crit skill, so you have Sirius to crit the boss to do blind, and you have LAIMA to crit the boss to increase her damage. So 1000%, I will pair these two together until you get LAIMA Awaken. And even if you get LAIMA Awaken, it's still good to pair together. But if you don't have LAIMA Awaken, then you can pair them together to increase LAIMA's damage. But same with the Kali, she needs crit rate. If you don't have crit rate, you won't see that blind. So invest to your series if you choose to use her. And I'm not that big of a fan of, but people do use her. She does on her exclusive skill increase crit damage. So if you want to use her to see if she ups your damage, go right ahead. But I'm not a huge fan of her, but people use her and people have seen success with her, so I'm not gonna diss her. Again, it's the count by count basis when it comes to boss aging, so that's why people use Sirius to the line, or they use Anne sometimes just to increase her damage. Because it's pretty much like Shiwa Light. Dragon's Nest, you should 1000% level these monsters for Dragon's Nest. Less on Vigor, but I use Vigor a little bit. Because Vigor is pretty much like a kind of like a Fangan where it lowers the boss's crit rate, so it helps increase your survivability. Then so you have Iggy Azalea. I call him Iggy Azalea. I can never say his name. Naomi, Tagaris, and Pyro. Iggy Azalea does Venom. Naomi does bleed. Tagaros does burn, and so does Pyro. He does burn as well. So these are monsters you can add to your team to increase the dot effect uptime on the boss. So that way you can make sure you are doing as much damage as possible. That is super duper important that you should level these monsters because you want to increase the uptime. The higher the more uptime of the dot effect on the boss, the more damage you do when it comes to Dragon's Nest. So I will level these. Vigor is primarily here just to increase survivability because he lowers crit rate, but you don't have to use them. You can ignore them. But for like people early game, you might want to add them in just to help with survivability, so that way teams can survive a little bit more. So that way you could do you can keep your team alive to do more damage. Arena is something in the game that people kind of ignore because the fact that it is very RNG in Arena, but these are the monsters that ideally are pretty good for Arena if they work, but most of the time they kind of don't. Fang Yan is really, really good for just decreasing crit rate. So if you lower the crit rate, then there's less time that maybe they can activate their crit skills to blow you up to the smithereens. Galleon does really good damage in Arena if you want to do some instantaneous damage, but people just use like the Limas and the Cassandras. But Galleon is good to add to you want to add them to your Arena team if you have them leveled up. Tetra's also a survivability tool, but the thing about Arena, again, it's pretty RNG, and your team a lot of times get blown up smithereens. Like I can't tell you how many times I looked into like Critter Outcrop or Arena, and then I walk forward and literally it's just kaboom! My team just dies. It just dies within like 2 seconds. So it happens a lot. But these are the monsters. Well, I would say Feng Yen is probably the best out of these three for sure. And if you have a leveled up Feng Yen, I would highly consider using him in like Critter Outcrop and Arena, just because of the fact that he could probably help you out and just like increasing the survivability of your team. But the rest are kind of like if you have these leveled up, you probably aren't gonna use these anyways. But they're still not bad, and I still think Feng Yan is a monster you probably should consider using. Sky Island defense, use them in your Sky Island defense to help you with this clearing the stage. You have Delphoy and Alicia, who are just the CC monsters. They're primarily to CC the ads and the boss to make sure that you can help slow them down or stop them so you can start doing damage. And Celestia is a little bit outclassed by LAIMA now because LAIMA does increase your accuracy. However, you can't pair them together. It's kind of just like Sirius. You can pair them together because Celestia increases your accuracy, and then LAIMA, further increases it. So you can pair them together if you want to do that. But if you have LAIMA, you could just use LAIMA and ignore Celestia. But I do kind of suggest you pair them together because they're, just the fact that you can increase your accuracy, and accuracy is pretty important in Skyline defense. I would pair them together if I was pretty much anybody else. I would definitely do that. Chisun and Remy, farming tier. So for people that know farming, it's basically when you're just like having your, team running around. I will show an example. Kind of like this, where basically like I am max level, so my team is just sitting around, just running around farming stuff. Remy increases your movement speed, so that way you're able to move around a lot faster to beat up bosses. And then Chisun heals your team, so that way you don't have to worry about using your pots. That's super important for farming, and that's primarily why people, if they're stuck on a stage, I highly suggest you farm, so that way you can, farm. You can farm what is it, area survey, and increase your area survey in that area, so that way it increases your stats, which will help you get past any stages that you're stuck at. So 1000%, if you're ever stuck on a stage, 1000% do this. I know people ask the question all the time, like, oh, should I have my phone on or off? The answer still is you should have your phone on or off if you are able to, or have your PC on, whatever. And have like a farming team, so that way you can run around, beat up mobs a lot faster, so you can get these chests. And then you can use these chests to basically increase your area survey, which increases your stats in the area that you're in. And do that for a lot of the stages, so that way you can make sure that whenever we're doing like climbing stages, whenever like we get like a new push in stages, you make sure that you are the best in every area, and that's pretty important. Like I need to go to Forest of Dreams ASAP to increase this, and also you get 10,000 crystals, so it's also really nice. Anyways, back to the tier list. So make sure that's why you have these on farming tier, to that way you can farm a lot faster and complete some stages. And nods here, it's just completely ignored. Honestly, you can ignore them and it will not change anything, which is Lapis, May, Howling, and Vanessa. The game is just not melee friendly at the moment. There are a few exceptions, very few exceptions, but for the most part, these monsters just don't benefit you at all. Like literally at all, because range just has range is currently just incredibly overtuned, so that way it's just better to use a whole bunch of ranged monsters rather than using a whole bunch of melee monsters, because melee is just they walk forward in a lot of things and just get blown up. So investing in the melee is just not worth it at all. So I would just ignore these monsters until Comtours releases something into Rush that allows you to increase your maybe increase the survivability of melee monsters. But yeah, currently range is incredibly too strong right now, and I would just ignore melee these melee units entirely, because they just won't help you in anything. That's it. That's a tier list. Went over everybody. If you guys have any questions, drop them down below, and I answer every question that is in the comment section. And that is all. I will see you guys in the next video.